You are listening to Midlife with Courage. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Don't forget to hit that follow button so you don't miss an episode. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host, and I'm so happy to have you all here. I'm also very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Sue Willoughby. Welcome to the podcast, Sue.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here today.
Yes, little do the listeners know we've already been talking for quite a while because we share a love of horses.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us where in the world you are and what you're doing.
Okay, great. Yeah, Sue Willoughby, that's my name. And I am in the Seattle area, so the Pacific Northwest. And I'm originally from the East Coast. So I'm originally from the Northeast. So I kind of did a little migration across the country.
Just a
And
little.
yeah, just a little. But I've been out here for over 30 years and I just love it. I grew up with horses, part of the reason that we were talking about them. And I use them currently in my coaching practice. So I partner with horses as a very intuitive feedback loop and a mirror for my clients to work with. So it's a really interesting thing to do. Horses are very intuitive, they're very heart-centered, and they do keep us honest. So
Yes, they do.
yeah.
Well, I want to talk more about your story, but first, tell us about a time in your life when you felt courageous or you showed courage.
Well, I would say that that is kind of a daily occurrence.
Hmm.
The way I grew up, and well, a little bit of a backstory in there, I grew up and my mom was, well, for all intents and purposes, a single parent. My parents split up when I was like 11, and my mom was an alcoholic. So I grew up pretty quickly, and I was very independent, or I had to be very independent. So I guess that kind of that courage. I don't know if it was courage or stupidity when I was younger, but but it led me to just try new things, anything that came up, like learning to fly. I got my private pilot's license. I mean, there's so
Wow.
many instances in my life that a lot of people would say, wow, that was really courageous. And I was just like, oh, I was just interested in that. So I figured I'd give it a shot. So it's kind of like, I grew up in discomfort. So getting out of my comfort zone, was pretty easy because my comfort zone was already discomfort. But courage is something that I think personally, there's the other side of courage is fear, right? And I
Mhm.
think that looking at those things together and separately is an interesting way to, and I work with my clients to, get out of their comfort zone and try new things. And it does take courage, but fear is sometimes so hard to overcome. So I've done a lot of things that's taken courage.
Yes. It sure sounds like it. I love to have my guests talk about where they started, where they came
Mhm.
from, and kind of gives us an idea of why they're doing what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Where would you like to share any of that? You weren't always a coach and
Right.
helping other
Right.
women. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to my original roots, and part of those roots were having horses around. I remember when my mom and I moved to Connecticut, and I was probably about 13 or 14 or something, and I noticed that there was a riding stable across the street, and I had grown up with horses. When I was young, I
Oh,
would have my mom take me to the barn, in 3 feet of snow. I grew up in upstate New York, and it just felt good to me. It was like my happy place and my safe place because I never knew kind of what I was going to get at home. And the horses just, they accepted me and I felt comfortable. And it just, the sense of them and their energy. And I didn't realize why I felt so good at the time.
mm,
It just did. It just felt natural. It just felt good.
mhm.
And then when we moved to Connecticut, I was across the street before the car even stopped and begging the, grizzly old guy that owned the barn to let me clean stalls just for the privilege of riding,
Sure.
which he did happily. He's like, sure, come on, kid, I don't care.
Yeah. As someone who's cleaned stalls before, I know that that's a big deal.
Absolutely. I love it. To this day, I still love cleaning stalls. I find
Yeah.
it very sort of meditative and just quiet and, you
Mhm.
know, but so horses just continued to be a thread. I kind of got away from it for a while in my, teenage years because I was doing other crazy things. but then they always would seem to weave themselves back in. And I had an opportunity to, or well, I saw an ad in the paper. This is back in the 70s, right? It was a long time ago, where they needed camp counselors and horseback riding coaches or, instructors for this camp for individuals with special needs. So I wrote them a letter,
Mhm.
put it in the mail, sent it off, old school, remember letters,
Yeah,
mailboxes, all
I
that kind of stuff.
kind of
Yeah, that,
remember that.
yeah, stamps. And long story short, I ended up going to summer camp and being part of their therapeutic riding program, which I didn't even know what that was at the time. I just thought it was fun and interesting. And I went back multiple summers to do the same thing.
Mm.
And that was kind of my introduction into horses, being able to work with and as part of a partnership with people in general.
Mm.
Later on in life, I volunteered at a therapeutic riding center for real and actually knew what it was. And then I got into equine massage because my heart is really with the horses. It's not that it's not with the people.
Mhm.
And so now it has evolved where I can partner with horses and people and bring a healing container and atmosphere. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the path. And there was a lot of detours along the way, trust me.
Because you did some other, I think you were into real estate investing and some other things I read in your
Yeah,
biography and
yes.
stuff. I get what you're saying about the horses and what like realizing like you didn't realize what they were doing for
Yeah,
you
yeah.
because I didn't have horses as a kid, but as I grew up and it took me a while to figure it out, but when I'd go to the barn and I was really stressed out, I'd feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if I hadn't gone to the barn to be around the horses for a while, I'd get so like frustrated and stressed out and like I need to go to the barn. Like I finally
Mm-hmm.
figured it out. Yes, those horses are
Yeah.
helping me. Just
Yeah.
being around them because yeah, I was nervous about riding, but just being
Yeah.
around them and yeah, having that. You walk into the barn and you hear the knickers and hellos and
Yeah.
but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I
And they're
love that.
communicating with each other all the time and they're
Mhm.
just really incredible beings. So here we are back at the horses again. Sorry.
Yes, here we are. No, that's okay. That's okay. Let's talk about confidence a little bit because that's
hmm
kind of one of my new a little focus that I'm working on with women in midlife. How do women find their confidence at this age? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, a lot of it has to do with identity where, women reach a certain age and they find themselves in this identity that they've either maybe outgrown or want to outgrow, whether it be, a corporate level, position or something. And or having raised a family, which is a huge deal. And
Mhm.
now they're like, well, now what do I do? Right? The kids are gone. And now I've been, this CEO of the home. And now I just don't, they don't realize that they have a lot of skills that are transferable. And I think that it's interesting because I think men sort of excel as they get older in some ways where they just automatically have that confidence. And I think women, yes, there's a lot of powerful, confident women out there. But I think when women reach their middle age, they think, well, what is left for me? What do I'm
Mhm.
going to just kind of be quiet and fade into the backdrop. So I think getting over that and realizing, starting to regain your curiosity and regain your awareness of what really lights you up. And I work with people in that regard. We lose our curiosity. We get in our routines, we get stuck in our identities, we get all of this stuff. And then to like, take off the glasses that are one identity, put on, and look at things with fresh eyes and start being curious again.
Mhm.
I think that can help people build their confidence. Like, oh, there's a lot of things that I can do. There's a lot of things that I've put on the back burner that I can take off the back burner now because I have time or I have resources or I have whatever.
Mhm.
So I think, for me, helping people build their confidence is just helping them build their curiosity and their awareness of
Mhm.
what's going, because there's so many things that we see on a regular basis that we we're like, we just take so many things for granted. It's
Yeah.
like if you start looking at things like a little kid would look at something, they'd be like, oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's so exciting. Me, I have kind of ADHD and I think
Squirrel.
everything's exciting all the time. Yes, I totally have the squirrel syndrome.
Yeah.
But we tend to push those things down and not be curious about things and be like, okay, I've got to just do this next thing, put one foot in front of the other, take
Hmm.
care of this person, do that.
Hmm.
And we put ourselves on the back burner.
Sure. So when did this all happen for you? Or I'm assuming it did happen for you because you're doing these wonderful things.
Well, like I said before, Kim, I think it's not something that happened overnight. I mean,
Mhm.
I've definitely evolved. At one point in my life when I was living on the East Coast, I actually met someone who was someone different and kind of outside of my current scope of friends and so forth, who challenged me to try new things. And actually I moved across country with them
Mhm.
and started a new life. And that was sort of a pivotal point for me. And I was probably about 30. I was in my 30s, I think.
Mhm.
And it really did change my life. Having that opportunity to be taken out of physically the environment that I was in, that wasn't the healthiest environment for me, and be
Mhm.
challenged by people who came from different backgrounds than I came from and had different types of jobs that were, what I felt in some ways I had, big insecurity complex and I felt sort of like I will say inferior. I mean, it was hard for me to be
Mhm.
around people that, went to Ivy League schools and all that because that was not my background. But it did encourage me to, you know, to do something different, to try new things. I started doing stand-up comedy. I took acting classes. I went back to school, which, okay, here's the truth. I quit high school twice because I didn't fit in. I didn't like it. I was bored. Remember the ADHD thing? I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
I've been undiagnosed all these years. And I just wasn't challenged. My mom used to
Ah.
tell me that I was too smart, for my own good, and which was probably a little bit true. So that gave me the opportunity to, go back to school and learn new stuff. I got into technology. All of a sudden, I, was looking at, you know, careers that were in tech. And so then I went into corporate training and instructional design for many years and had a, six-figure career there. And
Mm.
so that was a real pivotal point for me. It also then, I started a more of a spiritual journey. I was exposed to energy work and
Mm.
spirituality and all of those things. And it just kept layering and layering and layering to force me to do some internal work and some internal, self-evaluation and therapy and all of that stuff and peel back those layers and really
Yeah.
address some issues that I was not addressing.
Yeah. That's hard to do.
Right. When we
Yeah.
get quiet with ourselves, things get really loud. And I think that that is very challenging for people.
I love that. That's so true. And as much as we want to avoid it, if we want to grow and change and do,
Hmm.
we can't
Yeah.
avoid that happening.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my goodness. So let's go back to something you mentioned because it's really interesting to me, the stand-up comedy and acting. Talk about that. That sounds, there's part of me that thinks
Terrifying,
that would
right?
be really cool. Yeah. Like I want to try that. But yeah, so why that?
You know, well, I I've always had a very healthy sense of humor, and it is probably one of the biggest things that has saved me from all of my dark times, that and horses.
Hmm.
But I've always had a sense of humor, and it used to be a lot more biting and sarcastic and kind of like not really nice, right? But looking at the humorous side of life and looking at yourself humorously and like it really does take a lot of the angst and the anger and all of this stuff out. It just deflates it
Hmm.
because like, oh, you do something stupid and you laugh at it. It's like, okay, well, that's why a lot of comedians do self-deprecating humor
Sure.
because it sort of deflates all the stuff that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so I just took a couple of stand-up comedy classes and it was part of the, acting school that I was in. And
Hmm.
it was just fun. It was fun and improvisational stuff was fun. Like I said, I'm the type of person that if there's something that I'm interested in,
Hmm.
I try it. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you have to be, put in the 10,000 hours and be, the next Rosie O'Donnell or, whatever. You don't have to do that, but at least explore those opportunities and try it out. I mean, did I want to be a stand-up comic? Yeah, no, not really. It was horrifying to be in the holding pen when you're waiting for your opportunity to go up on stage for open mic nights. It was
Yeah.
just, but I
Oh
did
my
it
gosh.
and it was fun and I enjoyed it. So could I go back and do it now when I'm not so self-conscious? Probably, and I probably
Yeah.
would have a lot more fun with it. So,
Sure.
but
Sure.
it was a little horrifying at the time.
I bet. I bet. It's like saying something and wait for people to laugh. Like,
Right.
yeah. But you brought up a really good point in there too. Like, I don't know if because I'm competitive or just how I was brought up or whatever. I want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. But
Right.
we don't have to be the best at whatever we're doing because we're doing it for ourselves.
Hmm. And I think you hit the nail on the head there is that once again, if we go back to, looking at things with fresh eyes,
Mhm.
nobody wants to be a beginner, right? You said you want to be the best at it. Well,
Mhm.
to be the best, you have to start somewhere and you have to really suck at what you're doing first because if you don't suck at it, you're never going to get better.
Right.
So people don't want to be, they don't want to look like a beginner. They don't want to look foolish. And that's another reason that people don't
Mhm.
try new things is because I don't want to look silly, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to look like a beginner. I don't know how to do that. Well, great. Learn how to do it.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. Learning is the fun part. Like I'm a lifelong learner. I will try just about anything, and I have tried just about anything.
Yeah.
2 years ago at 63, I decided to learn how to play polo or start taking polo lessons.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Of
Wow.
course, I promptly fell off and shattered my wrist during a polo match, but there's that.
There's that.
But it was fun. I mean, the
It
polo
was
club
fun
was
until
right up the
then.
street from me. And even then, that didn't stop me. I mean, I went
Yeah.
back. That stopped me for the season for sure.
Yeah.
But then I went back and hopped up and do a little stick and ball now and again.
That's so
Um,
cool.
yeah. So I mean, it really, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's just like fear of looking like a beginner, and it's okay.
Mhm.
And especially if you do have a competitive nature. And I think we all do. I always say, "Oh, I'm not competitive until I get in a competitive situation." And then I'm like, "Yeah, I want to win."
For sure.
Get out of my way.
Watch out. It's my turn.
Why I fell off the horse.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So sometimes I think though, when we get into our midlife time, we kind of lose some of those fears though, because things like if I go to the store without putting makeup on, that used to be like a huge thing. If I go out of my house
Right.
without makeup, now I'm like, I don't care,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So do you think there's some point where we kind of it's a little easier to explore and do those things because we lose a little bit of that fear, or maybe we're accepting of it or something?
Yeah. And I think, the like what you're talking about is like you're like, well, I don't care how I look when I go to the grocery store or whatever. It's a
Well,
little bit
yeah,
different than trying something new, right? Like,
yeah,
you
yeah. That
know,
was a bad example, but
no, but I understand what you're saying. It's like we give less of a what about
yeah,
things in some ways. Like we are who we are. And I think that it still takes a bit of understanding and self-confidence to not go put on a full face of makeup to go to the grocery store, right?
sure.
And then I do think though that yes, you're right. And I think that still we struggle trying to find that extra oomph to like we may not care how we look when we leave the house.
Mhm.
However, how we look, how we show up to try something new or to actually take a step to go in a different direction is a little bit different because then that's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'm out of the house in sweatpants. However, I am not ready to jump out of an airplane yet.
Right,
So,
yeah. Baby steps, baby steps.
right, baby steps. And I think that not caring as much about what people think is a healthy thing. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying that have to look like a schlub all the time, but just that does help you with when you try something new, like it's okay if I look silly. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
if I want to take dancing lessons or, go to the boxing gym and don't know how to skip rope because I haven't done it since I was 5. That was a true story. So, yes, I think that getting more grounded in our middle age and being like, you know what, it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
is a big is definitely a big plus.
Yeah, for sure. And you said you're a pilot too. You
Yes.
do all these things.
I have done a lot of things. And once again, it comes from just trying stuff and
Yeah,
just yeah, I
that's so
someone
cool.
gave me a, one of those free flight lessons and then I was like,
Uh,
okay, well, now I want to get my pilot's license. And they're like, well,
uh,
that's not exactly what I had in mind. I thought you just have a fun adventure. No, no, no. I'm going to get my pilot's license and then I'm going to buy a plane because that's how I roll.
gosh. Did you? Do you have your own plane?
I don't anymore and I'm not a current pilot. I mean, I'll
Oh,
always
okay.
have my pilot's license, but I'm out of
Okay.
currency because
Okay.
if you don't fly all the time, it's a dangerous and it's expensive to
Sure.
bore holes in the sky for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
So it's good, always good to have a
Oh my gosh.
purpose.
Oh my gosh. So what's something you haven't done yet that you want to do?
Oh, golly gee. Well, I don't really have a bucket list. I think, I would like to travel more,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to, I want to give back more, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to do something. Then this sounds kind of grandiose, but I want to bring more positive energy to the greater good and the greater consciousness level to,
Mm-hmm.
raise up the vibration of, I don't know if you want to say the universe, right? So, I mean, just to continue to contribute positive energy and positive actions to, not just help, other women, but yes, help other women so that they can do the same thing, so that they
Yeah.
can, be empowered and do the things that they love. So, I think travel and just be a better person and bring that energy to the greater consciousness.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of woo woo, but
Love it. I
yeah.
like woo woo. We're all
Yeah,
about the woo
good.
woo
Yeah.
here.
Love the woo woo.
We love it. Yeah, we've talked about the horses and your horse coaching. Do you want to share about that a little bit more and maybe let the listeners know where they can find you and learn more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just we've talked about therapeutic riding, but the coaching that I do is all on the ground. So there's no
Yeah.
riding experience, there's none of that. And basically you're just being with the horse. Now, for those of you who don't know, I will say really quickly that horses, because I hear this a lot of times, I'm afraid of horses, or that
Mm.
somebody's had a quote unquote bad experience with a horse. Horses are prey animals. They're big prey animals, but they are still prey animals. And because of that, their nature is to be hyper aware of their surroundings. And they also connect with humans because they're also herd animals. And when we're with them, we are part of their herd. So they do connect with us on a very heart centered level. So it's all about the communication and how you show up in relationship and activities around that. The horses are at liberty, so they get to do whatever they want and just be a horse. And it teaches you a lot about how you're showing up and where you are and how you are being and also finding your core and your center. So it is very, very grounding that way. I also coach online as well without the horses because I've developed a little bit of a horse sense over the years. And then I have retreats. I have a retreat coming up in Paso Robles, California. I don't know when this
Oh,
will air, but that's going to be in mid-October of
okay.
this year. And yeah, so you can find me at willoughbycoaching.com. I'm
Okay.
also on Instagram at Sue underscore Willoughby and, Facebook and the other things as well. But those are the
Okay.
two main places where I hang out. Oh, and I also
Awesome.
have a podcast, Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. There you go.
Love it. Love it. Yes. That's awesome. We'll put the links to your website and your podcast in the show notes for people.
That's great.
Yeah. Is there any, I just want to keep talking to you.
We can have a part 2. We can have a little mini series.
Yes, yes. But before we say goodbye to the listeners, is there any one last message you want to share with them?
Be curious. Regain your curiosity and your sense of awareness. Even if you're going the same path to work or to the store or to whatever, maybe take a different path or notice some things that you may have just taken for granted and never noticed before. look at things with fresh eyes, and I think it'll give you a different perspective on life.
Love it. Wonderful. Sue, thank you so much for
Oh,
talking with me
thank
today.
you.
Really
Thank you.
enjoyed
It's
this.
been a pleasure.
Yeah, so hug those horses, and I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Kim.
You've been listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave me a review. Or even better, send a link of this episode to a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.